right, everybody, here we are. Happy Expiration Friday. It is October. Can you believe it's already October? So this month we have our first recurring guest back to after the close. Welcoming back Mr. Jared Mazur. Jared, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome back. It's always nice to be invited to things multiple times.
Yeah, right. It means that, you didn't blow it last time.
I figured I would, so yeah, this is awesome. Very excited.
So, I mean, we don't hold ourselves to quite the high standard of, say, like, Mark Maron or one of the OGs, but we try to at least keep it kind of tame. So the reason we're having you back, I think there's a very straightforward, we're not going to bury the lead. Would you like to let everyone know your announcement?
Yes, yeah, I have to, issue a big retraction. On the last episode, I was certainly espousing the benefits and the appeal of a child-free life, and I'm very happy to announce that I was wrong. I'm an idiot, and my wife is pregnant. So, we're with child. We're expecting a baby in the spring.
They're doing the spring. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
So this is going to be your first child.
Yes. First and
I love the exasperation on your face.
I'm to be honest, I'm excited and terrified at the same time.
As you should be, and we're gonna talk a lot about that, I think. So it just by an amazing coincidence, because really it is crazy. You and I have both announced that we're going to be having kids, basically in the same month we announced it.
Yeah.
I think, and the Substack followers will know that I just announced it on my weekly newsletter. I'm having my third child. I'm having my first boy, and that'll be in late spring as well. So we are somehow both in the same boat at the same time, a boat that I don't think either of us ever expected to be in. I never thought I would end up with 3, and I don't think you really thought you'd have any. For most of the last decade, that was your opinion.
That is correct. I mean, you're still like the old pro, the Jedi Master here. Like I guess a little bit of new grounds with the boy, but it's been there, done that with the newborn.
That is true. That is true. So in honor of that crazy coincidence, I thought we'd have you back on. We're going to talk about some stuff, and you mentioned the Jedi Master teaching the Padawan. We're going to see. Maybe it's going to work out that way, but you never know. Maybe I'll learn something from you as well.
I hope so.
All right. So, I mean, I thought this would be fun to do in a little bit of a Q&A. Maybe I'll do some Qs, and then maybe you can do some Qs, and we'll see where this takes us. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Because I'll tell you, I went back and listened to some of the comments you made about just raising a child, being a parent. Back when we talked last spring, actually, it'll be I think you were on in March. I noticed a clear pattern of you really don't have like your radar in the right head. Does that make sense? You were really like, I remember you being more concerned about the thing that broke rather than the welfare of the child, for example.
Yes, true.
That's okay. That's okay. So, let me ask you this right off the bat, because I think we're going to have a lot of contrasts too. Compare and contrast is going to be interesting as well. I'm going to go on a limb and say that you were trying to have the kid.
Yes, it was planned. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Because you know what? I'll be honest. The majority of my kids were planned. It happens. It's just part of life.
I know. I'm aware. Yes. Yeah. No. It was planned. Honestly, even at the time of recording, I was maybe being so boisterous in my no kids. Just to reassure myself when I thought maybe it was the wrong decision. So shortly after that was recorded, I had a conversation with my wife, and we started trying. And fortunately, to be honest, it happened a little sooner than we were thinking. Okay. But I'm glad to have gotten it over with, so to speak, and we're on to the next step, which of course is getting through the pregnancy, and then life starts.
That's right. Yes. The anticipation is like you can do you can do hours and hours talking just about the anticipation of you're gonna have your kid. Did you guys tackle this in a very scientific way? Was this were you really looking at ovulation calendars and counting and doing all this? Were you really we have a job and we're gonna do everything in our power to get the job done, or was it just like we're gonna like just see what happens?
We were taking the summer to kind of just see what happens, and then the plan was to start actually tracking and trying in fall. But I'm pleased to say that it was without fully committing, one and done, and it happened.
The power that you had, yes. You never knew.
Well, I'm an avid cyclist, so I was worried that all that time on the bicycle saddle, would have rendered me sterile. So,
well, you proved yourself quite fertile, I suppose. Yes. So, congratulations. It must have, maybe we should have known with the mustache that you were going to have no problems. Very true. Walks around like that. He's packing. All right, so you guys, you're getting pregnant. What was your like first reaction? Like you find out this is for real. What was your enormous like overwhelming feel?
Definitely just excitement. Honestly, she hadn't been feeling well for a couple of days, so in the back of my mind, I said, there's a possibility that's the reason.
Sure.
And she was actually visiting her sister at the time, so she called me with the news. She just kind of called me in the middle of a Saturday, so I was like, well, that's out of the ordinary. I kind of already knew what the news was going to be.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, that's good. You know what you were hoping for, and you got what you wanted.
Yep.
So you guys, like me, by contrast, for our third, I got told that there was a positive test, and it was just like, all right. So what are you going to do for dinner tonight? It was just like another piece of information handed to me on the day. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was just, we're going to have to like change up the carpool for the first one. The second one has to wear orange for school the next day for whatever reason. Oh, and by the way, I'm pregnant. It's like, okay, cool. Got it. Just let me mark that down on my pen and paper.
So which of the three elicited the biggest reaction then?
My first child. The first child is always the biggest. No, there's a saying, once you'll slowly learn about all the little like parenting kind of like headspaces and mindsets and things. And one of the big ones is whether like what is the hardest like marginal change, right? So a lot of people say the difference between going from 2 to 3 is the hardest because suddenly you're going from man to zone. Right? They outnumber you now. A lot of people will say that. And other people will say that, it's like, like 1 to 2, because you're going from, being able to put all your focus on one, now you have to split your time. Both answers are bullshit. The answer is going from 0 to 1.
Yep.
The answer, what's the craziest thing that'll happen is going from 0 to 1. By far, that's the answer. So when we found out we were gonna have our first, that was by far the most like, oh my god, like this is just like now the whole thing is gonna change. By the third, it was just sort of like, all right, cool. Like we have the house, we have a bedroom, we have like hand me downs. It's just kind of like, just tell them to get in line when they're here. Like we'll just put a little bit of we'll get the slightly larger meatloaf at the store. You know what I mean? That's really the only marginal change that's gonna kick in down the road. So you guys, though, you are both somewhat active. Like you mentioned earlier, you do cycling, and you mentioned that your wife was traveling. And so have you guys given any thought, and I think this is going to be very like reality versus expectations. Once you have a kid, what sort of lifestyle do you project for yourselves? Have you given that any thought?
Yes, well, actually, one of the conditions in discussing the child, it was very well thought out, was I still really want to be able to have an hour or two a day to do those sorts of things. Go to the gym in the morning before work. Mm-hmm. So we're obviously gonna have to find a balance and agree on that. We just got back from a trip to Italy, and I had said this could be the last time I've been going to be on a plane in 4 or 5 years. So I definitely recognize there could be some big changes.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it goes without saying. In my opinion, I think you'll be surprised how much your day-to-day changes, but larger events tend to still come as they had before. So what I mean by is that I think you'll have a much harder time trying to carve out 1 to 2 hours a day for yourself. than you would to try to take the kid on like a trip. Like if you went to like, let's say you do your lifestyle right now is you do take like a pretty big vacation, say once every other year. I think you'll find that you'll still be able to do that with the kid without much trouble. But the idea of partitioning out a chunk of your day to day, I think you'll find that to be much harder.
I hope not. We'll see.
It's true. It's that you can hope for whatever you want. I'm not saying it can't be done. A lot of it boils down to just the balance of duties and such. You know what I mean, between both parents and figuring out a way to make it work for everybody. Another big piece of it that really helps is whether or not you're going to have like in-laws or grandma and grandpa coming to help and things like that.
Oh yes, yeah. I plan on leaning heavily on my mom for some of that.
That's perfectly acceptable.
She's excited and more than happy to do.
That's perfectly acceptable. Yeah, I mean, your mother, I'm sure, is over the moon that she's finally going to have a grandchild, because I've known you and your family for a while, and I think that smart money would have been that the line ended with like your generation.
Yeah, maybe. Yes. No, she's thrilled. So very excited.
That's great. That's great.
We all are.
When when I had my first one coming, somebody whom I worked with who had, I think he had 4. He had at least 4. And he was a little older than I was, even older than I am right now. But I remember finding out that my wife's mother would probably be around a lot to help with the new baby. And at the time, I didn't know what to think about that. Because on the one hand, like, you kind of want help. And on the other hand, you're like, oh, we're going to have like this. Now we're going to have like another person hacking around. You know what I mean? And he said to me, he's like, trust me, take whatever help you can get. So even if you're going to have people coming and going in your life a lot more now, overall, it's take whatever help you can get, especially in the beginning. You know, like we ended up in a great routine, and my mother-in-law was an immense help over and over and over again when the kids were little. So in hindsight, I'm like immensely happy and thankful that she was around to do it. So I do highly recommend that whatever help you can get, you should definitely take.
Got it. Good advice.
So you are going to have some help probably in your mom. That's great. What is like your biggest, like, I don't know, what's your biggest like question mark? Like, how is this going to like, how do I curl this into like a ball and make it like fit type of problem you think you got going right now?
The biggest one immediately is, as you know, I purchased a 100-year-old home and gutted it over the course of the first 6 months living there, and I've been fixing it up room by room. The only room that hasn't been finished originally was slated to be my office. I'd have a nice fish tank in there, nice desk setup. That's now going to be the nursery. That's on the same floor as the master bedroom, so it makes sense. So now I only have 6 months to finish that room. It's in a rough drywall state right now. It needs to be painted, flooring, basically getting the nursery set up. So that's the most immediate baby-related concern. And then obviously once they're born, sleep management. I'm going to be continuing to work full time. The wife is going to be taking a leave for the foreseeable future. So sleep management.
So sleep management and getting the nursery together. Those are your two big like factors right now in your head. You know what? I think those are very reasonable and very common.
That sounds like a male nesting instinct, right? Like I need to get everything like prepared, and so that you can just pop this little guy or girl in there and be ready to go.
Oh, I agree. I think that's a good way to think of it. That nesting instinct. When you at least have the advantage of having been in your home for a while. You're not moving to a bigger place because you're now having kids, right?
Correct. Yeah, no, we were already, I have a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, so, waiting for children, honestly.
Sure. So that it's one less problem, because so many people start in, say, their little apartment in the city, and then they have like their kid, and they're like, oh shit, we have to now move to the suburbs or move to a bigger place or whatever. So to add the extra hassle of like home buying, which is a big home buying and home buying management is a big recurring theme we talk about here. And to not have that item is a big help.
That's true. Yeah, I should really count my blessings there.
You know, you basically, okay, you do have that one room to set up, but you don't also have like a kitchen and a dining room and foundations and like whatever else, painting the whatever room that you suddenly need to have painted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that you're ahead of the game by a lot of measures in that on that front. The nursery itself is that is like such a rite of passage. There are pictures of me in like an old mustard colored side bedroom, you know, that I'm in the middle of like priming and painting like a nice light neutral. I think we did like a light gray. Something
Okay,
really
nice.
neutral.
Calming, sure. Yeah, we're going
Yeah.
gender neutral as well. I'm thinking mint green.
Mint green is in there with the gender neutral palettes. The grays. You could also even get away with some sort of like a seem like almost like a tomatoey. Like it's clearly not pink.
Okay.
But it's also not like obnoxious red. Seen that some places. The nursery part it's actually fun if you think of it the right way. It's actually a fun thing to do because it's like a puzzle. You can go on Babies R Us or wherever else and get the list of all the things you need for your nursery. You know how they do that for like back to school, like you're going away to college.
Checklist, sure. The Bed Bath and Beyond checklist.
Yeah, like the Bed Bath and Beyond list for when you're going to go away to college. They have one of those. They have the exact same thing for babies, and so you're like it's almost like a scavenger hunt when you go and buy all the shit for the nursery, because you're like you've got the list and you've got like your wife there, and then you're kind of going around and you're like checking them off, and you're either putting them on a registry for your baby shower or you're like outright buying it with all like the gift cards you got for your baby shower. So in that regard, it's like you're doing this weird supermarket sweep of like Babies R Us to get all the shit you want for the nursery. So that's fun, actually. It's something you could actually enjoy doing together.
Interesting. I have that to look forward to as well.
Yeah, you got that. It's like in old school when Will Ferrell's talking about how they're going to go to where are they going? Home Depot? Where are they going to say? Like,
oh yeah. We'll have enough time for it.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like you're definitely nesting on a whole new level with this. So
yeah.
It should be, and everybody tackles it differently.
Right. Well, apparently the baby, like you keep it in your bedroom for the first little bit. You don't want to like shutter it away. Some newborn tips.
They shutter it away, like
like you
like store it in the overhead compartment.
Well, I mean, like you can't like close it off for the first little bit. Is that true? Did you keep did your children sleep immediately in the nursery? Like day one, you brought it home. It was in the nursery room. Their room. Close the door.
No. The babies, both our kids and our third one as well, they'll sleep in our bedroom for the first time.
Right. That's what I'm getting at. Okay.
Yeah.
But you still need the nursery ready for when they're born?
You need the nursery ready for when they're born in the sense that you need all the items that you're going to be keeping in there. Mm-hmm. But none of you won't, like you, for example, you want the changing table in the nursery so that you can like wander in there, change the diaper on the changing table, and then wander back out.
Okay.
You know, because that changing table has to be somewhere.
Sure.
You know, so you might as well put it in the nursery. It's like your place for it. It's like, where should we put the stove? How about the kitchen? Oh, so yeah, that whole thing is true. That a little of it is generational, I think, because you'll go back to say the 80s and the kids are in the nursery, right? You see like in a cliche movie, you see the dads all standing outside the two-way mirror looking in at their kids in the nursery. Mm-hmm. That was like commonplace in the, up until the 1980s. It wasn't until the 90s that I think it started to switch around. And this is actually good. This gets into some economics and stuff. What I think they figured out is that as dads got more involved in like the birth of kids, what hospitals figured out was that if they put the baby in the bedroom, in the room with the mother, and the dad is around, the dad is basically a nurse. So like the overall nursing staff required to help with all of these babies and mothers overall goes down. Because like when your wife wants to get up and just like whatever, go to the bathroom, you're there to help her. Whereas
Mhm.
in olden day, when like the men were sitting in the waiting room smoking all day, waiting for it, they'd have nurses who needed to help with all of that. So I do think it's like kind of a backdoor like economics thing where it's like, hey, we don't need as many nurses to keep the hospital running. We just let the dad sleep on the couch, which is 100% a thing I've done twice and will probably do again. You just sleep on the couch in the room for 2.5 days. You're like camping out.
Okay. That's how long it takes. 2.5 days.
Well, then you get all into like the insurance and shit of it too, which how many nights you actually get and stuff. This is actually this is another good area though, like the actual birth of the kid. Like you have to have your birthing plan, or your wife has the birthing plan. So like today in like 21st century, you go, you check in, and you're basically in there for like 3 days, especially during COVID. COVID played a big role that if you checked in to have your kids, you were not leaving the hospital. You were just in that room, like semi-quarantine. That was all through COVID. But they'll have you. I guess it's also, it depends on whether you are going into labor like crazy, like you have to jump in a cab and go, and it's why, like, you know, another like movie scene.
Emergency scenario versus plan.
Yeah, versus you just picking. But bottom line is, you go, you're there for like 2.5 to 3 days, and then you go home, and that's it. But you are like there. It's like a procedure done, which requires recovery and some time to like kind of like calibrate yourselves. So you're there for like a 2.5, 3 days. So both you and your wife, I think this is a really underutilized thing that's told to like new dads. Because we use like TV and movies as all of our reference points, it feels like. The mother always has like her go bag to go like when she's going to actually go into labor with like clothes and all the shit she needs. Dad should also make stuff for themselves. They should also make like a bag as if they were going away to like say a bed and breakfast for 3 days. Like you want to make sure that you're carrying your change of clothes, something comfortable, toothpaste, toothbrush, deodorant, all that stuff. Medicines, because what'll happen is like they might tell you after like a day or so, it's like, oh, if you want to go home for like a couple hours, you can. You're going to be surprised how much you just want to like not leave. Mm-hmm. You're going to feel weird being like, all right, see ya, wife and baby. I'm just going to go home for 8 hours and like take a nap and shower, and maybe I'll catch up on the latest episode of the HBO Max show that I'm watching. You feel a little dickish if you try to pull that move, so you should assume you're going to be there with them the entire time, which means you should pack your own go bag. Like if there's actually one lesson I can give to anyone who's actually going to be in the birthing room, is like bring your own go bag. I had to call my parents and say to them, like, can you just like bring me something? Because I realized that I packed like a change of clothes, and it was not nearly enough.
Okay, that's good advice.
Thanks. So tell me, what are your like aspirations? Like, what are you like? Oh, I can't wait to do like this. Like if it's a boy, I'm really going to teach him to do X, and if it's a girl, like we're really going to be doing like this. Like, are you dreaming going fly fishing with your son or something like that?
I mean, regardless of gender, like cultivating cool experiences and memories. Like, I was saying we might not be on a plane for a few years, but when they're 7 or 8, like a big trip to like Yellowstone, that they'll always remember is exciting.
They are not going to thank you for it.
No, they're not going to appreciate. Maybe when they're, in their 30s, they'll look back and think it was great. But, I'll certainly have fun doing it.
No, I get it. Yeah, that's a good idea. The vacations and all the memories and all the pictures you can take will be definitely a new element of it. You're gonna be surprised how much you want to talk about your own kids, for better or worse.
Yeah, I said I'm gonna try not to, but we'll see.
Now, a lot of it becomes. I think a good way to frame it is theory versus practice, because a lot of things which you might have had an opinion on theoretically, you're actually going to have your like feet put to the fire on, and you're suddenly going to see what your real thoughts are on certain elements of life. which you might surprise yourself. For example, suddenly Board of Education policy makes a big difference in your life.
Yes, yes, I've already this election cycle been paying a little more attention to those positions.
Right, like those things like that, because 5 years from now, you're going to have to make the decision if you're sending your kid to the public school in your district, or if you're going to send them to a private school, or you're going to move to a different public school. Like, those are real things. You have 5 years from now, you have to make that decision. You have to make that very real decision. It's not like this theoretical thing where it's like, I'm for school vouchers. Like, it doesn't fucking matter because you don't have kids. But all of a sudden, when you do, you're suddenly like, wait a minute, let me think about this. Maybe I do have a real opinion on this. So those types of things come up and become very interesting. Like, healthcare is another, and by healthcare I mean just like the wheelings and dealings of like dealing with a pediatrician. You're going to be seeing the doctor a lot during that first year. For some point of reference, we went to our pediatrician 26 times in 2022.
Wow.
So that's every 2 weeks we were there. We had like a standing appointment for like in 2020. You know, it's just because you have kids and they're small kids and they get sick, and that's the end of it. But we were there 26 times in 2022. I had to look. I had to count out the number of co-pays I made. So you're going to learn like really like what you value in terms of that. So yeah, I mean, what do you think? What are you most like? You've seen me with my kids, even if it's through Instagram photos and whatnot. What are you thinking when you see things? What's the thing that makes you most like, what the fuck's he doing?
Having three, number one.
Threes, yeah.
That's big. Yeah. You really wanted that boy.
The boy was a piece of it. We were like, yeah, maybe we could take a shot at having the boy. Another piece of, you're right though. Three's a lot in 2023.
And you're gonna have a bit of an age gap too between oldest and youngest.
The spread's gonna be 7 years.
Yeah, I mean, because you're like you're done with diapers and now you're starting again, right? I mean, that's.
You have no idea how much like you're absolutely right. Like we just got the other one potty trained like last month. Like we just like banged that out as an assignment I had this summer to make sure that happened. So yeah, we're at about a 7-year spread on ours, which is pretty common around here, at least, I gotta say. But we moved to like a bunch of like-minded souls we were in a suburban development with kids, and everybody has 2 kids, and like that's what it is. Okay. So to have 3 is not so crazy from a kind of society standpoint around here where I am, but objectively speaking, yeah, it costs a lot of fucking money. Like, I'm not going to be rich anytime soon. So that's a big thing, though, you have to take into account. I'm going to pull this back around to more of the economic side again. A lot of pop culture stuff, when they talk about having kids, they talk about the cost of college. So, right, like, how many movies have you seen where, like, the kid is trying to get a scholarship to go to school because that's the only way he could afford it, right? Yeah. But what nobody talks about is the cost of daycare. So the daycare of a child is going to cost about the same as in-state tuition to a 4-year school.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing.
It just does. It's just they're right in the same ballpark. To send my kid 0 to 4 to daycare costs the same amount it would cost him 18 to 22 to go to like a 4-year in-school tuition. So like if I had one wish, I wish that I could just like get a scholarship for daycare. Like, I don't know what
We're really good at blocks.
Right, maybe. Like I wanna get him the same way I'm gonna teach my kid to be the kicker on the football team so he can make NFL league minimum. I swear to God, at this point in my life, that might be my best bet for a retirement plan is to have my kid make an NFL league minimum. But the thing that I wish I could also do is figure out a way to get him to just like get a scholarship to daycare. So I don't shell out $1,200 a month for this kid to sit and drool on some other lady all day. It's not a racket because it's actually extremely like it's a valuable service. Like I need to
of course.
put this kid somewhere, but it is rough. And that is something you are going to have to like get mentally prepared for if you're both going to, unless your wife or you are planning to like stay at home full time, he's got to go somewhere.
Yep. No, that was the cost was a big point in having her stay home. That's the decision, and it was
because there's childcare. I mean, it depends on what you do for a living. Obviously, how much is actually going to impact you financially, and what your whole situation is. I know, like everybody's in their own boat, but it is an objectively hard cost to swallow for a prolonged period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because it's like an irony that people who are generally starting families are not yet in their prime earning ages yet, right? If you have to suddenly shell out that money, you're not like the big vice president yet a lot of the time, or something like that. So it's hard. It's like society and the amount that you got to pay out for the amount you've coming in for most people. It's like it really doesn't work a lot now. It's tough.
Tough. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, I just turned 36, so I'm definitely doing it on the later side. But thinking about even just doing it, 8 or 10 years ago, financially would be a lot more difficult.
For sure. So you've got that aspect to consider as well. I feel like a lot of people are how do I want to phrase this? Just point blank not having kids because of the financial reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, do you get that vibe? I'm like one of the differences I think, which is cool here, is that you are probably friends with a lot of people, or at least casually interacting with a lot of people who don't have kids, because you can.
Correct.
Well, everybody I know has kids now. Like, it's just the reality of it. Everybody that interacts with you has kids or has to interact with kids or whatever. It's just the way life is. So, like, what are single people thinking right now?
I mean, it was definitely, when I was, saying the benefits of it, it was definitely, the disposable income. If I wanted to, go spend $1,000 on a bicycle component, I really didn't have to, think about it. I could go do it. And obviously now I'm going to have to rein that in and spend my money on the child.
Yeah, there's nothing else to say about it. But I mean, like, when you talk to other people, like if you just talk to like another buddy who doesn't have kids, are they like, we're not having kids because it's too expensive? Or you just like there's a lot of people, because once you're in, it's like tattoos. Like once you get one, you're gonna end up with like 10.
Most of the child-free friends and acquaintances I have are on the older side, 50s and older. So I guess the window's almost completely shuttered for them. But that's generally, finances definitely do come into play.
I gotcha. Fair enough. So you guys are going to have the kid in the spring, and your wife's going to be home for about a year, you said?
That's the plan. She's an occupational therapist, so she could work on like a semi-part-time basis. So, after about a year or so, maybe, she'll start to go back into it weekends.
Gotcha. So you guys thinking you're going to be like one and done?
Most definitely. That's the plan currently, yes.
Okay, I gotcha. No judgment.
Hopefully I won't issue another attraction video in a year or two.
You never know. You never know. A lot of people critique the one and done crowd. Like if you have many kids, there's I think an unfair critique of the one and done crowd.
Like we're taking it easy.
Yeah, or it's like, I don't know where it comes from, to be honest with you. Like, I don't have a particular problem with what anyone does. I totally understand the idea that people think I'm insane for having 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get that. I think I'm a little bit like, maybe, oh shit, this could have been a mistake. This better work out. But a lot of people who have just one child, other parents with multiple children, I think kind of look at them and be like, look, it's not that hard. You just have one. I think that's sort of where that vibe comes from. And I don't think it's fair to do that. Not just for the financial reasons, but it's just like, people are going to do what they're going to do. You know what I mean?
Right. Okay, that's good to know. I need to look out for that shade being thrown my way.
Yeah. There could be a little bit of that here and there as you get into it. I think some of it's a little bit of jealousy, to be honest, because with one kid, especially once the child gets a little bit older, you can live a pretty, you know, extravagant life if you choose. It's not that hard to travel with one child. When there's two of you and one child, it's not that hard to go to like a nice place to eat with just one child if you're able to like get them up to snuff for like, you know, behavior wise and stuff like that. Once you get more and more, it gets harder and harder. So I think that's a piece of it. But bottom line is, I don't get why people are give the one and done crowd a hard time, but that is something you might have to watch out for. Kind of low key shades, yes.
All right, thanks.
I mentioned behavior. Do you think yourself to be a stern father? Do you expect like if you could picture, think of all the sitcom dads that have been out there. Which one do you want to be like, and which one do you think you'll actually be like?
You know, I mean, actually, it'll probably be like a Randy Marsh.
You think you're gonna be like, that's your win?
Yeah,
that's your aspiration, or that's where you?
No. Well, you know, years ago you'd say Bill Cosby, right?
I don't know if I was okay. I mean, maybe
not now, obviously.
I aspire to be Danny Tanner. I think I'm more like Red Foreman some days.
You know, Red Foreman, that's a good one. Actually, that's what I'd aspire to be like. If it's a boy, I say that I plan on being very stern, and if it's a girl, I'm most likely going to be a big pushover.
There's some truth to that. I think I'm my biggest
we're both little boys. You need to be hard on you know, little guys, especially when they want to do stupid things.
I think that I don't know. I don't have a boy, so I can't say for certain. What I can say is I definitely found a softness in having girls that I certainly did not have having went through sports and fraternity life and just having brothers and just being like, you know, a guy in his 20s. Like, I had no sense of just like being a softie until I had my girls. And now I definitely see things through a different light. When it comes to having a boy now, after having girls, I don't know if I'll be that much harder or if I'll just sort of fall in line. That's one of my most interesting sort of what ifs. I don't know what it's going to be. What I can say is that had I had boys first, yes, I'd have been much tougher, much sterner. I would have just been like, just get in line, much more militaristic.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, that's my intent as of now. You know, we'll follow up in a year and see what it's like, longer than that, and see what it's like.
Mm-hmm. The parenting thing, though, is not a single avenue. You have to work it out with your wife. There's what you want to do. When we were gonna have our first, we were the first among our friends to have a baby. So the rest of our friends started to follow along like 6 months later, and after we had our kid and they were about to have theirs, a lot of the guys were asking me just, you know, give me some advice, give me some whatever. The thing that I said about parenting is calibrating yourself with your wife and what works and what doesn't work is going to be a new challenge. So, for example, like the baby does X, whatever X is. Baby shits its pants. Who cares? You think to respond with Y. Your wife thinks to respond with Z. Sometimes Y and Z are going to match perfectly, and that's great. Other times they're going to be wildly off the marks from each other, and you got to navigate that. And you have to navigate that 17 times a day for the next 18 years. Like, that's actually one of the more challenging bits of it, I think, is how you guys, like, calibrate yourselves as a team. It's like, let me ask you a question. Would one of you run out of the room crying if you both had to put a puzzle together?
Potentially, yes.
So that's like maybe a future version of what you're going to be in for in terms of parenting. Because you're not in it alone, my friend. You have to deal with somebody else's opinions, thoughts, and attitudes, and they do not always match.
Yes. Well, you know, I definitely see myself, you know, as more of the grunt. You know, she'll be the one dictating orders.
That's the way I was as well. Yes, I think that's a pretty universal these days. Is that and it goes back to like, you know how to deal with a boy because you know you can just be militaristic and give orders. So at this point, you're just taking orders. You're just like, what do you need? I need 2 bottles, and I need a hot whatever. I need like a hot towel. They're like, all right, here you go. I'll get it. Here you go. Mm-hmm. Down the road, it might be like something else, and it's just like, all right, here we go. I got it. Done. You know, like a good example. You want some really great advice for like how to make your wife appreciate you.
Please.
And when I say appreciate you, I mean like once she has recovered, appreciate you. Get the baby bag ready to go without having her to ask you. Like think of it as your bug out bag. The baby bag is now your bug out bag. Like I'm 100% serious. You're staring at me like I'm nuts, but I'm 100% serious on this. If you just treat the baby bag as a bug out bag, you just do not have to be asked. You just have it ready to roll. It's filled with diapers, wipes, change of clothes, bottles, a snack, a toy. It is ready, filled, hanging by the door, ready to walk out the door. You just have that ready at all times. You're going to get an enormous amount of points. Because it is one less pain in the ass thing that she has to think about, and you will look great by doing it. Like the baby bag is your new bug out bag.
Got it.
I think that's actually, I'm like thinking about this as we speak, but it's actually a very good piece of advice I think I can give someone. With a lot of it, it's just about turning it into a frame that you can appreciate and just handle. You know what I mean?
Lots of small gestures add up.
Small gestures add up, but I mean more things like you're going to encounter all these new pain in the ass things you're going to do, like get a baby bag together every time you're going to leave the goddamn house. But I know you're kind of a survivalist type. You like to be prepared. You're the type of guy who like makes sure his tools are all put away in the toolbox in the right spot and hanging on the right hook. So if you just translate that idea to a lot of what you're doing as a parent, it's going to go a long way. It's going to make everything feel easier.
To optimize.
It's not about so much optimizing, but more just like applying your style. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like you just do things the way you're going to do it, but do it with the kid in mind. It makes everything a lot easier, you know? So that'd be a really good one, I think. Do you have any like interesting or not so interesting? I kind of already asked the question. What is one like thing that you really would love to be able to do with the kid? So like for me, I have the boy. I would really love to like build an R2-D2 model.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. It's just this random
full scale working motorized.
Yes, like I want to like make a remote controlled R2-D2 with him as like a big project. That's something I've had in the back of my head since I was like 12. This would be like an awesome thing to do. Mm-hmm. Anything you really want to like do that would be like, this will be cool. We're gonna do this. I don't care if you dragging, kicking, and screaming.
I mean, build a tree house is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of good trees on my property.
Okay.
Definitely, either gender sports are exciting to me. I'm indifferent as to what sport. I'm definitely gonna get way too into it. I know that already.
You think you'll be one of the guys who are really like? Would you coach Little League?
I don't think I have the patience to coach. No, certainly not. I obviously don't want to push them or be aggressive about it or be that crazy dad in the stands. But I'll definitely want to give them all the tools to succeed and encourage discipline and practice. Because obviously that helps you in any sport.
Sure. Is there any sport that you would definitely lean him towards or against? Like for example, you could say like absolutely not doing football.
We've already, the wife and I have already discussed that no contact sports, with the exception of boxing. I would want them.
Of boxing. No
yes, I would want them to box.
Okay.
She of course Anna's not sold on that 100% yet, but we'll cross that bridge when they're 3 or 4 and ready to do baby boxing. Baby boxing, that would be fun. The gym that I train at, they have a very, very, it's literally just, put some little gloves on them and have them just, swing around just to kind of, get in it as young as 3 or 4. That's cool. I didn't know that. I mean, I should know, I guess, that something like that must exist given how just the world is, but maybe I would do baby boxing with my son. Because I could totally kick his ass. Yeah, I'd give probably 12 years. Once he hits 12, he'd probably be able to beat you up.
Well, in fairness, then I'll be pushing 50.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, let me ask you this. This is an important one. Is dad strength real? You hear about dad strength all the time.
what do you mean by dad strength?
Yeah, like that, a father is able to like summon tremendous strength at times, not necessarily to save the child's life, but just, dad strength. Dads are a little tougher. I've heard a few times.
Yeah, I guess so. I always think of it as like the mother who lifts the car off their child.
Yeah, similar to that.
Yeah, I guess it exists. I don't know. I don't really believe I've encountered it yet, but feel like that's
So
maybe
you,
one
you
of those
don't
things
have
you
it
don't want to encounter.
then.
So, what else was I gonna say? Oh, I lost my train of thought on it now, but that's okay. So, dad strength. That's it. Do you have any other myths or wives' tales that you are kind of now kicking around your head, wondering if these are true or not?
Unfortunately, not. That's the biggest one. I mean, the other one that I know isn't true is, you always see just in media in general the bumbling dad portrayed, which, I don't think I'm going to be that incompetent.
Yeah, well,
Like the Tide commercial. It's like the Tide commercial. It's like that. Dad's home with the kid. The dog's jumping and nothing could go right. Like, tell me, is that what it's really like?
no. I mean, it's what it reminds me of? People who are often on the air, be they commentators, podcasters, whomever. If you traverse enough footage, you're gonna find gaps. You know what I mean? Like there were like by and large, my dad duties of just like making them each like a water to have at their bedside every night and just mundane crap like that. 99 out of 100 times, that's gonna go fine. But I'll actually give you a really like silly one that actually had happened to me today. I went to fill up that cup with ice, and one of the ice cubes fell to the ground. I took the ice cube, I tossed it across the kitchen into the sink. It curved through the sink, came right back out, and hit me in the head. I can't make that shit up. It really happened. If there were a camera on me every night, during those 10 minutes, that would be the one that got played on like SportsCenter. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that kind of nonsense. Everybody has their little like gaffes and little like oddball things that happen. Like, oh, I got my shirt caught in the whatever, and like blah blah blah. Generally speaking, that's not true. Yeah, that's like you're just you with kids. So if you are the type who gaffes and falls on their face all the time, then you're gonna do that. But you're gonna have kids. Don't drop the kid. That's a real one.
Yeah, that seems like the top 5, top 3, maybe.
Yeah, Pete Holmes has a great bit where he talks about him taking his kid home from the hospital and all the things that people were telling him as advice. And the nurses kept telling in the bit he's telling the nurses keep wanting to tell him, you can't shake the baby. Don't shake the baby. The one thing you got to do is don't shake the baby. And he's like, of course I'm not going to shake the fucking baby. But then what you find out is there's going to be times where you really want to shake that baby. And that's what they should be telling you, not don't shake it. Just let you know that there's going to be days where you're going to want to shake that baby. I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying there are times. What I tell everybody, I don't know how this turned into me just like bestowing advice for an hour, but here we are. The key, the underlying key beneath all of it is just wanting to be there and do it. Just wanting to be there and be a dad. Then the rest of it falls into place. Like that's it sounds sappy, but it's actually true. Because like half the problem is like if you're bitter that you're sitting at home at 8 p.m. watching Encanto on TV rather than going out to like the sports bar to hang out with friends, that's when you're gonna have a problem. But if you're like cool, like even if you're like this sucks and the kids are a pain in the ass, as long as fundamentally you're like, all right, this is just what I do now, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did. We watched Encanto yesterday. So, where do you think you're going to be a year from now? You're going to have yourself, like, what do you think the average weekend was going to be for you when you are there with your, I guess it would be 6-month-old at that point?
Yep, thereabouts. Maybe I'm a little embarrassed to say that 8 p.m. On some weekend nights, I am at home watching Pixar movies already. So not much will change in that regard.
You're halfway home.
Yeah.
So don't,
yeah, I trust I'll be doing it with just a little more crying and something. Yeah.
Maybe somebody will be crying. Might not be you.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll be you, but not always. But yeah, so in a year you'll be hanging out with the wife, the kid, watching TV, living your best life, I presume, right?
I hope so. I mean, I'm guessing it gets harder when it's toddler age.
That's interesting.
More mobile.
I don't think it gets harder, but it gets different. One of the problems is that every like 3 months, the kid is going to change a little bit, and it takes you about 3 months to get the hang how to deal with that. So you're constantly kind of a half step behind what it's got to be. You know, like as soon as you figure out how to deal with like that 3-month-old, she's now pushing 6 months, and now it's behaving entirely different.
What's a big difference between brand new newborn and 6 months to a year old?
Well, when you get into for the first year, they basically measure things by week. So like a 12-week-old and a 14-week-old are going to be different to some extent, because those first couple weeks and months, there's so much growth and like they're supposed to triple their body weight the first year, like just from a physiological standpoint, right? You're supposed to triple your body weight in a year, so your body is naturally going to change a hell of a lot, and that means you're going to have to deal with a lot of stuff. Be that digestion and eating, be that medical, just getting sick, getting whatever. That some of that is like, the milestones, like sitting up and standing and rolling over and all that stuff. You're going to handle a lot of that stuff in what feels like an eternity, but in reality, it's very rapid fire. You're going to feel like this is just like never ending and nonstop when you're having your first kid, because you're navigating it for the first time. However, it's really just like a rapid fire year of like little milestones. So like every week you're trying to kind of figure out something new. After the first year, it starts to slow down, and then it starts to be like the 3-month thing, where it's like, a 12-month-old, then a 15-month-old, then an 18-month-old. Each level there starts to feel a little bit different. And then once they get to be like 3 and they're like toddlers and stuff, then they start to spread out even more. But the types of things you're dealing with and the complexities of it become harder to navigate once they get a little older. So it takes more time. Like, it's okay, when you have a little 6-month-old and the 6-month-old like goes from like size 3 diapers to size 4 diapers, you're like, okay, cool, I did it. I figured that out. Because that's not a hard thing to figure out, but that's what I had to deal with this week. When you're dealing with them getting toilet trained when they're like 2.5 or whatever, that could be like a 2.5, 3-month ordeal to figure out, to get them like on board with that. And then as soon as they finally get it, then you got to deal with the next thing. And all of a sudden they're like involved with, I don't know, maybe they've like picked up a swear word, and now you have to get that swear word out of their vocabulary. It'll be some nonsense like that, right? Like, and that'll take 3 months. So then you're dealing with different things and different complexities, but the root of it is that it always does feel like you're always, as soon as you figure out the last thing, it's the next thing now you got to deal with. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. So I hope that helps.
Okay. Yes. It's been a lot of very useful advice, I think.
I know you're going to have to like go back and play it all, because I've just been rambling about it the whole time, but it doesn't make it not true.
I'm thankful to have it.
So we're hitting about an hour now. And I unfortunately have to keep it a little bit tight this month. So I guess I kind of just want to close it off by letting you riff a little bit. Like, what are you thinking here? Like, tell me how you want this whole thing to play out.
The whole thing being my child's life?
No. I don't mean like the whole thing. Well, yeah, I guess I do mean that. I'm just saying like how has your mindset changed most fundamentally, I think?
Hmm. Well,
Like,
definitely.
how is it like shifted a little? You know?
Um, definitely just a bit more. I don't want to say concerned for the future, but obviously not focused on just living in the moment or worried about the next vacation or trip or fun feat of endurance I'm gonna try. Definitely looking more as a family unit with my wife and I and new child.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Uh, I guess we can call it a month. How about that? Well, we'll close it on that note. Jared, thank you for being here this month. I appreciate it. I hope to have you back again sometime next year if you have the kid. I think the biggest piece of the puzzle will be finding time where you're available and awake to do it, but we'll figure it out. Wish you the best of luck. You're going to do great. I know you will. And people will be here to help you, believe me. So, you have anything else you want to say?
Well, thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure. Always very fun.
All right. Thanks, everybody.